Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our succession planning informational uh, event today. Um, Before we get started, we want to share with you some kind of housekeeping items. So please keep yourself on mute. The slides and the documents will be shared after the meeting. We encourage you to ask questions. The chat box is being monitored, and we'll also leave time after the presentation for questions. This session is being recorded, so please know that. And also know that the training was adapted from our 2025 Partner Agency Conference to be given virtually. So here we go. So what is succession planning? Succession planning, the definition of succession planning is a process to prepare your agency for a smooth transition in planned or unplanned emergency leadership changes, whether long-term or temporary. Succession planning can be challenging for volunteer-run pantry agencies, but it is a critical practice to ensure that there are no gaps or delays in distribution of food to your neighbors. So, succession planning. We might automatically think about a worst case scenario when we think of succession planning, but really succession planning helps us to transition no matter the reason for changes, whether a life change like a medical leave or new grandkids, or even emergency like bad weather. Succession planning is proactive, not reactive. Having a plan, having a plan in place sets your organization up for success for continuing to serve in someone's absence. It is process focused. So the steps that need to happen for your organization to be successful in serving your neighbors in need. It is also transition focused. It is likely that you or someone from your organization could need time away for any reason. And we want to make sure that there are plans in place for someone to step in and fill in that absence. Transition can be long-term or short-term, but change, as we all know, is inevitable. So why is succession planning important? Well, there's several reasons. Serving our neighbors. So neighbors in need of food assistance will still need services even in your absence. So it's important that more than one person knows how to run the pantry. Oftentimes, not all volunteers know all the ins and outs of your organization. So what can you do to help everyone be on the same page or have what they need so the pantry can run smoothly without affecting the neighbor's experience? Another important reason is communication between the food bank and the agency. We at the Food Bank of Iowa have time-sensitive messages to communicate to you, and having multiple people we can contact will ensure our message reaches your agency. Examples of this could be that our trucks are running behind or early, or the delivery day needs to change. There can also be new partnership guidelines, federal rulings, or other different trainings available where a deadline accompanies them. If in the interim, a new key person volunteering, we want just to give a friendly reminder that you are required to let us know immediately so they can receive the mandatory training from us. Agency viability. Bringing more people into your agency and its processes only serves to grow capacity and create more natural leaders to sustain the agency's mission into the future. Proportioning tasks can also ease the administrative burden that is often carried by one person. And lastly, strong business practices. What are foundational processes that keep your agency going? The upkeep with the agency's 501c3 related filings, budgeting, fundraising, and keeping up with the other required documents. When readiness is at the core of the organization system, the agency is better prepared. So getting started, building off the definition of succession planning, what succession planning is and its importance. How do we get started? What are the approaches and strategies? So there are 6 components of successful succession planning, and we'll share with those 6 with you. And Ashley will start us off.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ashley DeVisca, and I am the Regional Partnership Coordinator for Region 4, which is Polk County. So today I am going to be covering the first 2 components of succession planning. So the first is defining your agency's mission. So creating a mission statement if you don't already have one. So we have that defined here. A mission statement is a short statement that outlines an organization's primary purpose, values, and goals. So if you don't already have a mission statement, some things to consider are: what do we do? How do we do it? Who do we do it for? What value do we bring? What's most important to us? And why do we do what we do? On this slide here, we have an example of Food Bank of Iowa's mission statement, and I'll just read that here. Food Bank of Iowa is committed to creating a hunger-free Iowa. We provide food that helps Iowa children, families, seniors, and veterans lead full and active lives, strengthening the communities where they live. We value compassion, commitment, collaboration, creativity, and courage. Okay, the second step is to define and document roles and processes. So think of everything that goes into running your pantry. It is good to sit down and document everything that it takes. And here we have some examples of things to think of. So first is opening and closing. So what does it all take to open and close your organization? So who has the keys to get in? What are the hours? What should we expect when we're opened? Some other minute things to think about would be who is in charge of snow removal, because we all do live in Iowa, so that is inevitable that you will have to have snow removal. Food orders, making sure that the right people have the login for your account to order food from Food Bank of Iowa, that they have your delivery schedule so that they know when you can get delivery, or if you choose to pick up, how to do that. Reporting, Food Bank of Iowa does ask for monthly statistics to be due on the 1st of each month. And you also may have other reporting things that you have to take care of for maybe grants or donors. So writing that all down. Neighbor intake, writing down what your intake process looks like. So having that TFAP form filled out, and maybe any other intake that your organization asked for. Inventory control, so keeping track of the food that you have on hand, the dates on that food, what food is or is not USDA product, what types of food neighbors really like at your pantry. Fundraising, volunteer engagement and retention. Your volunteers really want to feel important. They want to be connected to your mission, so keeping them engaged. Your board and donors engaged. Obviously, your board and donors really kind of make decisions for your organization, and it's great to keep them engaged of any happenings at your organization. And lastly, IRS filing, such as how do you keep up with your 501c3 documentation? Okay, next is Addison.
Hello, everyone. My name is Addison May, and I'm the Regional Partnership Coordinator for Region 3. And I'm going to kind of keep talking about where Ashley had left off. So you can't do it all. With this, do you have one person in your agency that holds multiple roles, and has it been difficult for them to find backup? So when one person holds multiple roles, it could be such as placing the order, paying the bills, or the accounts. Would there be a way to split those up? And how can you determine which duties to split up for everyone to be in assistance and helping out with the pantry and your organization? How do you match some of their duties with others who have the right skill set or willingness to learn? If you have someone who's very hands-on and loves to do organizational things, they could be someone who stocks the pantry and makes sure that everything going in and out is within its best if used by date, as well as within that USDA guideline of 6 months. Additionally, what are other ways to finding successful backup? This could be reaching out to your local volunteers who have also have connections with other places. And how are you going to keep those volunteers from coming out back? So it's not just a one-time thing where they are consistently getting involved with your organization. Documenting job descriptions. So when you are wanting to document these job descriptions, whether for a volunteer or an employee, you want to have the position title, the duties, the outcomes of the role, the skills needed to complete the role, attitude and other qualities, the time requirement of this, the motivation for this role, and the resources needed. So your position title could be volunteer, and they are helping stock those shelves. So one of their duties is going to be help completing the stocking and what that outcome will be and the types of skills that they'll need. Some additional resources for this could be FBOI trainings such as orientation, civil rights, and or food safety. So documenting your standard operating procedures or SOPs. So who will perform each task, what materials are needed for that task. So again, that could be your Food Bank of Iowa trainings. And so they may need orientation or food safety in order to engage with the product, where it has to be done and when it has to be done, how the person will complete this tasks, and other considerations that may include corrective action, who the supervisor would be, and additional contacts. So assigning and documenting contacts. How do you currently document your volunteer and staff contact information? Is it very high level and everyone has access to everything, or is it going to be more just the higher ups that have it and volunteers do not have access to this information unless they are asking for it? With this, you want to know which roles need backups and where are you missing backups. So if you need an additional volunteer, do you have someone on that list that you can contact to come in? Who needs access to your contact list? So that was going to be whether it's your main volunteers or your admin within your organization. What is the policy for your SOP in calling in those backups if you have someone that is not able to come in? How will you keep all the contacts updated, whether that is a digital or paper copy, and who is responsible for those updates? Finally, what contacts are required by your food bank? So for us, we do require a POL. Some additional contacts that we'd like to have is who is going to be handling the billing for your organization, who may be placing those orders, things like that. That would be good for our staff to know when we are coming, when you're ordering your food and when we are delivering your food. Next up will be Ty.
Hello, my name is Ty Harris. I'm the Regional Partnership Coordinator for Region 2. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about evaluating and confirming your succession plan on an annual basis. So it is our recommendation that at least once per year, you meet as an organization and review the proactive process that is succession planning. So as mentioned earlier in the presentation, things like Food Bank of Iowa trainings, who needs to take what, so there's food safety orientation, civil rights training, all of those things. We also advocate for taking a look at job roles and duties, see where maybe there's some overlaps in either volunteer talent or staff talent that could possibly act as backups. And then additionally, like your contacts, maybe use a contact tree, just who's who within your organization, and possibly even some external contacts should be considered. Be important for people to know who to contact at Food Bank of Iowa if they ever need anything. And additionally, like maybe that fiduciary piece. So like your general finances, filing your 501c3 status. Food Bank of Iowa's fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So that might be a great time just for you to kind of evaluate that succession plan. like when those new civil rights forms and that kind of information is made available to you, that'd be a great time to utilize reevaluating your plan. Next up, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm going to take you to this little toolkit that we created. So give me 1 second. All right, so this is our Food Bank of Iowa Partner Agency Succession Planning Toolkit. Now I'll start this off by saying this toolkit's not going to be like the end all to your succession planning. This is really just created to kind of get your mind flowing. We know all agencies succession planning is going to look a little bit different. So we provide some good examples and kind of capture what we talked about earlier in the presentation within this toolkit. So obviously the table of contents are going to be in there. We define what succession planning is and go through those various components of succession planning, as well as we provide examples of standard operating procedures and volunteer descriptions to kind of get your mind thinking about some of those things you could create for your own organization. So the definition of succession planning is on there. Just a reminder that succession planning is a process to prepare your agency for a smooth transition, whether it's planned, unplanned, emergency leadership change, and just in general, that succession planning's process and transition focused. And it really is a proactive, not a reactive process. Defining your agency's mission statement. So we provide our example, the mission statement should be the why that fuels your what and how for your organization. We use our Food Bank of Iowa one within the toolkit as well. And then the components of succession planning within the toolkit. We create a little table here. Now, it's going to be very hard to fit all your organization's information on this, but it just really is just a tool to kind of get your mind flowing, thinking about, what job descriptions can I put in defining and documenting roles, things of that nature. Now, I will spend a little more time on this next page just because this is a standard operating procedure directly from Food Bank of Iowa. This is our SOP for how to place an order in our system. You'll notice as I scroll down, this is almost 2 pages for one singular SOP. And that's really designed this way because the SOP should be encompassing document as possible. So anybody who picks this document off the street should be able to follow the bulleted steps in order and be able to accomplish whatever task is at hand. So this example is for how to place an order. So, from accessing your delivery schedule and making sure you're placing an order on a day that you're eligible to receive delivery. Explaining the system a little bit, where to access our inventory system, all the way down to how to successfully submit your order. So when you get this sent to you via email, we do recommend that you take a look at this. It's well thought out. Like I said, anybody should be able to pick an SOP up and read through it and be like, yeah, I can successfully complete that task. And next up for the presentation will be Kelsey, and I'll turn it over to her.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kelsey. I'm the Regional Partnership Coordinator for Region 5, our Southeast Iowa counties, and I'll be finishing out our presentation today. Continuing on with the toolkit, for succession planning to be successful, effective communication is crucial for transparency, engagement, and managing expectations during times of change and transition. So questions to think about here are, how is volunteer and staff contact information currently documented for your organization? Who would need access to those contacts for your food distribution program specifically? How will you keep contact information up to date?
In our toolkit, I'm going to scroll down just a smidgen. A tool we provide you with to consider using is this phone tree. Some components to have in mind in utilizing this format is identifying those roles and from those day-to-day tasks to those critical for your operation, mapping out where vacancy would cause an immediate disruption, figuring out who could be a backup, determining when the phone tree will be used. Is it going to be just for those emergencies? Will it be for when someone has planned time away? You know to expect that. Or just any and all instances of staff and volunteer changes. And then again, just thinking about when you're going to review this and update it once a year, every few months, or just as needed. Whether you create this online or create a physical copy, like if you take this kind of image that we're using as an example and you put that on a board, for like that physical visual, also determining how you're going to communicate its use to your volunteers and staff. So like a written out document that includes details on how this works, who calls who. You can have a tool created and ready for use for your organization, but it won't be effective and meaningful unless it's understood. So just being mindful of that you can have this in place, but then just explaining the why behind it so everyone knows its use and purpose. On this next page of our toolkit, we have information or a format, to make a training plan. So in a healthy team, value isn't concentrated in one person. Knowledge and ownership are shared to ensure resilience. I think it's fair to say that the work we all are doing and a part of is bigger than ourselves. So what are the best practices and processes that can be in place to make sure that work continues successfully, even in times of change? So that means providing potential leaders with appropriate training activities to prepare them to fill positions as needed. So on this page of the toolkit, this training plan, like I mentioned, this is a format you can follow. Just to walk you through this, we have identified a role on the left-hand side. A few steps for how they'll be trained is listed there in the middle, an estimated training timeline, and then who's going to be responsible for that training. So if someone was going to be trained to do the intake at your organization, or if someone was going to become like a secondary main contact for your food distribution program where they oversee all operations, a training that they should consider taking is our partner agency orientation, where we cover a variety of things from our partnership requirements to placing an order to what those intake steps should look like and include, and then reporting monthly statistics. Role clarity and procedures help everybody, and you want staff and volunteers to understand the role and to follow the procedures in place. On this next page of the toolkit, we've provided another template you can utilize for how to write up a job description for roles in your program. The layout here that we've got, just to walk you through it, we've got a role title at the top, the purpose of that role, the duties of that role, qualifications, the estimated time commitment, and then what training and support are needed for the role to be successful. The specific example we have in the toolkit is for a volunteer inventory control and sorter volunteer position. One way to think about approaching writing up job descriptions for your agency could be meeting as a collective volunteer group or staff and making a list of as many roles as you can, not worrying if you get it, if you get it in the first go, instead thinking about it as a starting point, and then you can continue to edit and add to it as time goes on. Like Ashley had mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, all the things it takes for your agency to run when you're thinking about these roles, from opening and closing, getting those orders placed with us, neighbor intake and sign-in, inventory control, like in the case of the specific job description example we've got for you, fundraising and donations, volunteer engagement, and just administrative tasks. Approaching writing these job descriptions as a group can be a way to engage your volunteers and staff early for succession planning, because we want to create those opportunities to learn and grow now before something happens. It's also great for team building as a whole to have everyone's voice and involvement of the roles needed to keep the food distribution program running smoothly and successfully. I also just want to add a quick note that with succession planning and it's that proactiveness to be preventative in times of change, it can also be helpful from the mindset of volunteer burnout. So eliminating that only I can do this mentality through that shared knowledge transfer, mentorship, and providing a clear path for volunteers to take over responsibilities. Okay, another job description example we have for you is an intake volunteer. The same layout format from before, the purpose or the title role, excuse me, at the top, the purpose, the duties, qualifications, time commitment, and then any training and support that's needed. As you can see in training and support, a step that's needed is to shadow someone who is experienced in the role currently. A couple slides ago, I had that training plan chart or that table with the role name, those trainings they would need to complete, who would be responsible to train them. That can go hand in hand when you're writing up these job descriptions. So another idea to approach it that way. On this last page of our toolkit, we've given space for you to write out a job description, but all the formats and templates and the wordings that we've talked about are for you to reference and use. This is really just a guide to help you get started in thinking about how to implement some of these things into your organizations. Okay, if you can bear with me for just a second, I'm going to navigate back to our PowerPoint to finish this out. Okay, thanks for your patience. On this slide, we have our service map and our team's contact information as a reminder for who you can reach out to. If you would like dedicated time to talk through anything that we've just shared with you for succession planning from the lens of your own organization, those specific situations unique to your agency, please reach out to us. Otherwise, we are happy to stay on and answer any questions. If there aren't any questions, this is the end of our presentation for you today. Like it's been mentioned, we'll email these slides and that toolkit so that you can have all of that to reference back to. And then a recorded version of this training will also be available later on, and we'll let you know when that's the case. So otherwise, if there aren't any questions, like I said, you're free to stay on and we can talk through those with you here. You can reach out to your RBC. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you carving it out of your afternoon to join us.